everybody? Welcome to another webinar here at Route Consultant. For those of you who've never been here before, never met me before, my name's Josh Gregory. I am the Vice President of Education here at Route Consultant. Now, all that really means for you is that, I've been in and around the logistics industry for a while now, and why we do these webinars is to help bring these new opportunities to you, to help you understand a new space where you can run your own business, be really successful, serve the community, and be really profitable. And we really want to use these as ways to help educate you on these new spaces. These are going to be here for you to learn, to ask questions, to meet experts. And if you are here live, like I said, there will be a Q&A session at the end where anything that we talk about today or anything about the industry as a whole, you are free to ask questions on. We'll stay and answer whatever questions anyone has. My only ask is that if you do have a question, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of the window. That's where you should put it ideally if you want me to see it. If you put it in the chat or if you raise your hand, I might miss it. So if you want me to answer your question, put it in that Q&A and we'll make sure to get to it. Now, if you've been here, we've done a series over these last few weeks and months on a bunch of things about the space and the industry. And all of those are still on our YouTube page. If you want to go and see those, they're all on the Route Consultant YouTube page, and you can find all of those videos, and all of our future videos will be there as well. But our focus this week is on something that is really critical to any business, not just the EMS space. And that's really the focus on how to build the right culture and really how that helps protect your business in the long run. It's really important for keeping your business healthy, keeping your drivers happy, and ultimately attracting new hires to the business as well. So today, Hans and I will be here to talk through it all. And if you haven't met Hans, today's your lucky day. Hans has been in and around this industry for years now, operating these businesses, owning them, mentoring, helping others into the space for the first time. So he's a wealth of resources on anything to do with the EMS space. So Hans, if you want to go ahead and come on and say hello, and then we can go ahead and get started.
Hey, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. It's good to have you here again. And
Yes, definitely. I love
it's
it.
been
I
a
love
couple of
it.
weeks where we've done one together too, so it's good to be back.
Yes, definitely. It's good. I'm thankful for you having me, and I'm hopefully I can help anyone else that's interested in getting into this field today, so I can answer more questions for people.
Perfect. Okay, so like I kind of introed and hinted at, what we're talking about today is culture. So, when you're thinking about building one of these businesses for the first time, how did you go about deciding what type of culture you wanted to create? Is it just something that happens? Did you think it through or write it down, or what's that process really look like?
When I first started this business, I didn't have a culture. That is what prompted me to create one, right?
Yeah.
So we had a high employee turnover. I didn't really understand the infrastructure and how important having a culture was to, my business success. So the first year and a half, it was really plug and play, plug and play. And after getting advice from people that were successful in this business, I said, hey, what is your culture? What is your company mantra? What is your mission statement? How are you implementing that mission statement every day? And do people actually believe in it? Is there an actual do the employees buy into what you believe? Now, I think the thing with me that helped me was a lot of my employees knew that I was able to get on the trucks. They saw how I responded to patients. They saw that I was willing to do anything to make sure that my patients had a great experience with us. So indirectly, I created a culture without really knowing, but not having a guideline or not having training and explaining to people what my core beliefs are. I had to do that later on because we really had a revolving door of employees. So at that point, it was, plug and play, plug and play. And I never set time until we really became profitable and we started adding structure little by little. I understood the need to actually have an identity. And I think a company culture gives you some sort of an identity,
Yeah.
right? For everybody to believe in.
Yeah. And we'll definitely get into, the things to think about there and how it can impact the space. But, before we start talking about employees and the business as a whole, a lot of people when they start this space, they may have no employees or they may just be building it on their own. Do you still think culture is important if there aren't any employees yet? Is it still something you want to build there?
Definitely, because the culture starts with you, right, Josh? So it's like, again, that was the one thing that I knew that would help me build a culture because my employees could actually see me. When I first started my business, I was very hands-on. I was on the ambulance every day. I was doing scheduling, but no matter how busy I was, I didn't waver when it came to customer service, right? I didn't waver when it came to my policy on being on time. So I think again, indirectly, without having anything on paper, I was creating a culture. So yes, it starts with you. You can't do it with other employees. They have to watch you, mimic you, see that you actually believe in what you're saying, and then they'll follow, right? At least the good ones will.
Yeah, yeah. The ones that can start to kind of see it. And,
Yes.
we'll get into it in a little bit too, but it's beyond just your employees. One of the biggest things when it comes to culture in this space is how do hospitals and patients and everyone else perceive you? And what does that mean? And so, yeah, I mean, I think culture is important internally, but in this space, especially, it's extremely important externally too.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We put our mission statement, which is the beginning of setting a standard, right? Setting that culture. So our mission statement is in every marketing material that we have. Everything that we produce will have our mission statement because we stand by that. Our first ambulances, the slogan patients first, or I mean, where the customer comes first was there. That's going to be big, bold for all of our customers, future customers, social workers, anyone that's in our space will see that's what we are basing our business on. The customer comes first. So yeah, it speaks volumes for that.
Yeah. And beyond kind of your mission statement, when you think about why you got into the space and your why for being in the business, do you think that's important to have your employees understand kind of your story and your why?
Yes, I mean, you know what? Part of our orientation
Yeah.
was the history of our company. And they get to meet the owners. At that time, it was me and a friend that was business partners, and we would discuss to them with them our background. Of course, definitely for me, you know the story, Josh. I was blessed to be able to transport my mom and dad. That's very imperative. Like, not only is that imperative with the employees, but that's something I use when I talk to social workers. Like, I know what it feels like to be in this space. I know what it feels like to be on the other side of the fence. So I want to make sure you guys understand that when you do business with me or you're working for me, it's not someone who can't relate. The truth of the matter is, in any shape or form, we all can relate somewhat to healthcare, right? I just had a story that hit home with, and it was directly with the service I was providing. But we all have a healthcare story. We all have something that will tie us into the healthcare system. We just have to use that story to relate to our employees, and that builds the culture because they know that you're in it for the more than just the money.
Yeah. What kinds of things, how did it feel like your workforce and your company really started to change when you had more of a culture to kind of instill and show to them?
It gave me longevity with my employees. I have an employee right now that sent me a very nice video because he made it through med school based on what we provided for him. And every summer he would come and work for us, but we always had our doors open. We put him with doctors that could help him, give him advice. And he just said, "Hey, I want to thank you," and sent me a beautiful video of how we helped him. That's the culture that I want to, that I love. Like, when you have that family culture, and sometimes people have a military culture, they have different cultures, and you'll find employees that'll gravitate to that culture. But us, we have a very um, open door policy. You know, the communication is there. And so creating that family culture and letting people know that they're there to express themselves. One thing that I tell any employee, I remember this. Any employee that will come, we do it at the interview. I'm sorry. When I hire you, I'm hiring you for your talents, not just to be a warm body or not to just be a robotic EMT. There's something about you that I want you to bring to the table. And if there's any ideas that you see that you have that can help us grow or, streamline what we're doing, just make us a better company, bring that. And that's part of the culture, showing people that they have more value than just a warm body,
Yeah.
right? And so that's very important.
Yeah, and one of the big things you mentioned is just communication. So beyond setting the culture, making sure your employees feel valued and that they have a voice in the business, which, like you said, in some industries in the logistics space, sometimes it can feel like your employees are a revolving door. And Yes, that is true for a lot of industries. That is the case. But a lot of times what I find is that it's because you're treating your employees as a one body, exactly like what you said. And so the more you can change that perception of both them and the company and the culture, and it really has an impact both on the caliber of an employee that you attract and how long they'll stay with you because they feel valued. And even somebody who's going to medical school, they'll still come back over the summer. I mean, that's a great story of how that type of culture can really bring you the right people and keep them
Yeah. I mean, the reality is, Josh, they have so many options,
there. Yeah.
right? And when I was getting into this business back in 2015, I'm on the ambulance, so I was scrambling for employees. So if I saw you on an ambulance, I'd say, "Hey, what's your name?" "Josh." "Hey, da 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 da. Are you happy where you're at? Are you not happy?" And so there's different ways to market. Um, I don't think that's the best way to try to grab somebody from someone anymore, but I didn't know better. So in 2015, 2016, it was literally just trying to fill those holes for that revolving door of employees. But there were employees that didn't want to come work for me because I didn't have automatic stretchers. But there were some employees that said, no, I actually like it where I'm at. I like my boss. I like the owner. So he had or she had a culture that made that employee not want to waver and go somewhere else. So I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to create this. And I've had employees for me with me for like 6 years now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's at the end of the day, the amount of money that you save by keeping employees for multiple years in a row, not having to worry about orientation and training and the loss of productivity of bringing in somebody new is huge. It can't be
Yeah,
met.
think about your patients now have to get used to
Yep.
a new employee as well. And yeah, that doesn't help as well.
I mean, especially patients who might have some kind of sensitive medical condition where they don't like to a lot of people to know it, so they get comfortable with one person, and then once that person leaves, it's a really uncomfortable beginning process again, and that's huge.
Yeah, like, oh my God, Hans, how many times are you gonna have a new employee? I got to show this new employee how to pick me up, how to do this,
Uh,
and it's they love it. So building a culture, as we're speaking about this now, it just doesn't stop with employee turnover. It helps patients,
yeah.
stability as far as staying with your company. I've had patients that did not want to leave because of my employees. And the better you build that rapport, the more you start with the company culture, and now you have your employees that like working there, and that translates to patients wanting to have particular employees. Imagine if you're late 3 or 4 times. Your patients will still stay there because they want to deal with those particular people, right? So they have more patience for you. So that goes, it speaks volumes. Like it goes so far with what setting a culture and having people to buy into what you believe working for you does.
And imagine, I mean, think about a social worker or a hospital, who's always trying to bring in these resources to deliver, to move their patients around. And most of the time, probably what they hear from patients are complaints about that, that EMS or an EMT employee. But if they hear from the patient, hey, when is Hans going to pick me up again? That's they need to be there. I'm not doing it for anybody else. Like that type of feedback, if a social worker ever gets that, the amount of potential opportunity that you're opening for yourself. So it's not just keeping the employees and keeping the current revenue, but it really opens the doors for a lot more as well.
Definitely. You're going to have social workers that call and say, hey, Hans, unfortunately, I like you, but your patient is complaining,
Yeah.
and we have to do what's best. They're always going to do what's best for the patient.
Yeah.
So you have to provide some consistency. And Josh, it's like anywhere you go, right? Where you see a revolving door in employees, whether it's a Starbucks that you visit frequently or, a place that you live that people in the admin is constantly rotating, that shows that there's something wrong, that people do not want to stay there,
Yeah.
right? And so your patients see it, and like you said, your social workers will see it,
Yeah,
and people want to deal with someone who can provide some level of consistency.
definitely. So, kind of at a tactical level, what are the types of things that you try to do daily, weekly, monthly to help kind of continue to foster that culture for your employees?
From the time that my employees walk through the door, first day that they're hired, they will see my mission statement on my wall. They will see my mission statement on my handbook. Every ambulance that I have has a folder that goes with it, and it tells you about the patient's routes, it tells you about the do's and don'ts, and it tells you how to complete a PCR. But the first page of that folder is our mission statement, right? We're going to we're going to burn it into you like this is what we believe in. And if someone were to ask you what is the mission statement, you should know it,
Yeah.
right? And you should believe in it. And so it's really important that you create that environment that people believe in, and that'll transfer to them actually providing quality service. Now, another thing I do also is I call my employees monthly. You always want to feel the temperature of the room. What's going on with this? If I'm not calling them, my supervisor's calling them. We're doing monthly checks, but not only for the employees, we're doing it with the patients and the social workers. Hey, Mrs. Johnson, how you doing? How do you like our service? And then this is the social worker, and they are surprised that we're taking that initiative. And we're not just calling them when something's going wrong. We're trying to be proactive and make sure that if there's anything that they see that we can fix, we're fixing it now rather than waiting for something to happen and then being, reactive.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I do. I also do quarterly evaluations. So we do the monthly check-in just to see if everybody's okay. People have problems at home. When you own a business like EMS, you are a counselor, a scheduler, a
Yeah.
financial advisor, and the way that you could get your employees to buy in is by you buying into what's going on in their life, right? And so that's one of the best things. And we talked about that previously, is like having an open line of communication. You can still have the chain of command, but it's always good to let your company know that your fingerprints are always going to be there. And you're going to make sure that, so whether it's you or your supervisors, people are translating your vision and what you believe in into the EMTs.
Yeah. And, quarterly evaluations are huge because we would always do it in the FedEx space. All of our employees, we would have those types of conversations. And we were one of the few that did it, because a lot of people just kind of viewed those employees as they are doing a set job. I don't really have, as long as they're not getting into an accident, there's not really anything to talk about. But really, those are some of the most important things you can do to show your employees that if they have issues or challenges, you want to hear it. And if you have challenges or issues with them, you can talk through it in a setting where you can really start to work on it and show, hey, I've seen the work you've done here. It's been fantastic. Here are the areas for improvement. And it's just really important to not forget that these are still people with goals, and you want to talk through it and make sure that they understand that you care about them as people as well.
Definitely. I'll give you an example of one thing that happened when I went to the EMS seminar in Las Vegas, 2 months ago. They spoke about employee culture. There is a company out there that will actually put their employees' face on the truck, like if they're the employee of the month, and it'll
Yeah.
say Josh's truck, and it was a picture of a gentleman. He was smiling outside the window, and his sticker was right there with his face. I mean, what other better way to get your employees to buy in and do something like that? You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
going to take pride in it. I thought that was a cool idea. I'm actually going to take
Yeah.
it and use it myself. But
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, that's a great way to get people to really buy in, is by showing them value.
Yeah. Now, if you run into those times where maybe there's a person who's a challenge, or maybe it's something, more intrinsic to the business that's challenging the culture, like how do you handle discipline? Like what are those conversations look like for you typically?
Definitely, I changed the perception, right? I don't even do disciplinary statements. I call them counseling statements. Because, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's what we realize that you might be doing and you can do better. So I want to understand this. What is preventing you from doing that? Like, do we need training? Whether it's driving, whether it's customer service, whether it's completing a PCR. We're looking at every situation as a way for us to get better as a company and your employees to get better as an EMT. So we kind of change the way uh, we want to change their perception. So when they leave a counseling statement session, they're not feeling bad, they're feeling good, because we're going to make sure that they get the best from us. So we we just don't discipline anyone, right? If it does get to that point, I even change the way I eat. You know what? Maybe Josh, this is not the right fit for you. Maybe we have to work on some things so we can meet your needs and you could. So maybe in a year or two, we can come back around and revisit you working here. Right now, it just doesn't seem like it's the right fit. But is there anything we can do to help you? And that's really it. We try to, leave everything with a positive notion to it, right? And so that way people can feel energetic, people can still feel like they weren't, disciplined, but it was like, hey, what's going on with this? We see that you're lacking in this, or this is slowed down productivity, or it's taking you longer to get to work. What can we do to help you? We put the ball back in the employee's hands, and finding out what other companies are doing and seeing what you can do differently. One of the things that helped me be very successful for my first 5 years, or after the first year, was providing health insurance, right? Again, that's just another way to people for employees to say he really cares about us,
Mhm.
right? He really cares about us providing for our family. So providing health insurance is a great way to create a culture, because people know that there's another tie-in. There's someone who believes in doing things the right way and not just using people as a warm body, like we like to say.
Now, do you think this is something that you can do it all remotely, or do you think how important do you think it is to be there, at least to some extent to help build this culture?
For the first 2 years, I think you have to have your fingerprints, right? On everything. You have to be there daily, right? It's almost like a child, right? You can't expect a child to mimic you if you're barely there, right? So for the first 5 years of your child's life, you want to be as hands-on as possible. So you're looking at the situation the same. And then the people that you delegate to be the supervisor, to be the COO, operations manager, they have to believe in your vision, and they can now translate your vision to the employees. So I think after maybe the first year and a half to 2 years, I still do my monthly checks. I like to do that personally. I want to make sure that my employees feel comfortable talking to me. But, I find myself doing them less and less
Yeah.
because my company's running and it's self-sufficient. So I really don't have to be there. But when I get there, I think people like to see my face, and it just lets people know, hey, I'm still involved.
I think it's hard to quantify how important it is, but it's hugely important to just them seeing your face, like you said, even if it's just for a little bit, them knowing that you're there and you care, it goes a really long ways. Because if they haven't seen you for 6 months and they have a problem, they're just gonna be like, ah, Hans doesn't even care about this anymore. Like, why should I care? So yeah, it doesn't have to be all the time, but making sure you continue to have your footprint in the business is crucial.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I've seen that, and people think I think they just interpret that as you don't really care, you're in it for the money. I spoke at I went to a company in Jersey, the gentleman I told you that owns 34 ambulances, and every employee spoke so highly of him. And one thing that they said about Reese was that he's never going to hesitate when it comes to getting on the ambulance. He's never going to say, hey, we can't do it. He's going to make sure that his employees get get all the help that they need.
Yeah,
So
which
it's
is
really important about that.
the fact that he's still able to do it at that scale and still get that same kind of feedback is amazing. So I guess just kind of as a last point here, do you have an employee handbook? Do you think it's important to have something like that that's written down beyond just talking about culture?
Again, trial and error. First time, first year or two, no employee handbook. I'm just ready. I'm picking up patience. You start learning how important these things are. And this is what makes this webinar, all the webinars so great, because we're giving everybody the ammunition so they don't have to learn as they go, right? And take it from someone who's been in the business for 10 years that, I've spoken to people that's been in the business longer than me. But the employee handbook, it's your Bible. And everyone should know it from back to front. But not only know it, they should believe in it, right? Because your employees are your liaisons, they're your marketing, they're your recruiting. A lot of your business success is going to start and stop with your employees. But if they don't know what your mission statement is, they don't believe in the culture, what are the chances that they're going to recruit patients or employees for you? Right? And that has to be in the handbook. My orientation has a test after the first day of orientation. The second day they have to take a test, and some of the questions are from the employee handbook to make sure that they've read it, of course.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's something that we always emphasize in any of these businesses. it's an important way to kind of codify in your own brain all of the things that you think are important. Make sure your employees see it, even if they don't read it thoroughly, they've at least seen it. And then it also is just a protection in the event anything ever happens later, any kind of discrimination that they may claim or anything like that, you've got those written protections. So all kinds of reasons to have it. If you're thinking about starting your own, let us know. We can help you kind of work through those. But it is important in this space and really any logistics space to make sure you've got some kind of handbook.
And even if you're going to buy an existing company, see what their employee handbooks are. You can actually feel the culture and interview some of the employees that work there. You want to make sure you're buying something that's on solid ground, that has a foundation, right? And the one thing is that the employees will love to know that the new owner is listening to them and he wants or she wants to know what's the situation, what's the temperature in the room, and fill out their, concerns about the transfer of ownership. And that can start with, hey, let me see your employee handbook and let me see the culture that you are creating. And is that a culture you want to inherit? Or what's it going to take to change that culture?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Perfect. Well, if anyone has any questions, feel free to type them in now. But just as kind of a reminder for everybody, that's really what we wanted to cover on culture today. But as it is with any subject and anything we've talked about previously, we want to kind of give you the surface level insights so you understand the things to think about. Oh, did I? Okay, I'm back. But like I said, like I was saying, we want to give you the things to think about at a surface level, but every business, every market, every state operates differently. And a lot of this is really trying to figure out, how invested am I? Am I going to start this on my own? Am I going to buy an existing one? What are the steps that I need to do to get started and continue it? And then applying everything that we're teaching is more than just hearing the information. A lot of it is really working it through, building a business plan, applying it to your specific areas and specific questions. So as these things come up, as you get a little bit farther, feel free to reach out to us and work with us. A few ways as a reminder that you can. Again, we're always going to have these webinars where if you have questions, you can come. We also have our one-on-one courses as that's just the free, like, here, let's go through a few courses and really decide if I'm still interested in this space. We also have our digital new investor summit, which is really where I would encourage you if you're trying to take a next step from here. That is designed as it's a combination of a digital course and a day in our offices where you can come meet Hans, meet our team, and really help you think through any last lingering questions you may have before you decide to jump in and start building on your own. And then if you do start building, or if you do buy one of these, a lot of the challenges don't start until, as you're starting to build it and as you're starting to operate. And so there's ways where you can have Hans mentor you and work through all of the startup challenges, the marketing challenges, and continuing to be successful in the weeks to come. So wherever you are, there's all those different options that we can help you with. You're also, if you're just like, I don't know what to do next, you can always just email us info@routeconsultant.com and we can help you steer you in the right direction. Other than that, I'll go ahead and end it for today. So Hans, thank you so much for being here, for answering questions and providing your insight on all this.
You're more than welcome. Anytime, Josh, you need me, I'm here.
Yep. And thanks for everybody who joined. We will see you all next week.